Welcome everybody back to another episode of WRPL, All Things Consumed, a podcast where we talk about all things we are watching, reading, playing, and listening to. I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
So what have you been up to lately? How's life? I was gonna say married life, but how is almost married life?
It's good. It's good. You know, living the dream, talking about kids and what best way to season them is when we eat them. Because that's the whole point of having kids, right? Yeah. Because
It's not a sustainable food source because it takes so long for them to grow, and that first baby needs time to plump up. I mean, you're not looking for at a meal until like 12 months after conception.
yeah, but my whole thing is they say the best meals are the ones you prep, and I can't think of. I mean, what meal takes 9 months?
Sure.
Plus, I mean, so you give it time to marinate as a child for a little bit, like you said. But like a year long process to is going to be the best meal, I think.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
with slow cookers, the longer the cook, the sweeter the meat, or something like
something
that.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, besides cannibalism, what else have you been up to?
Uh, just working, living the
Yeah,
dream.
I know.
I wish I. I mean, I've been reading, watching stuff, but I haven't really finished anything to the point where it needs to be talked about quite
Sure.
yet.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I've started a few things too, and like for example, I'm watching season 2 of Doom Patrol and season 3 of Titans, but they're still going, so
gross.
I know.
Which is better, Titans or Doom Patrol?
A year ago, I would have said Doom Patrol for sure was the better of the show. It's like they've become a little aware about how wacky they are, and they've really leaned into it. And I don't know if I care about what's going on as much as I did in season 1. Whereas Titans is filled with stuff I don't like. There's some bad acting, some weird costumes. If the thing with Titans is you have to don't think of any other incarnations of these characters. Don't think of any other Batman or Starfire or Robin you've ever seen before, and just think of these as like brand new versions of the characters, and you'll enjoy the show a lot more. Because sometimes it's just like, okay, I know that character. They wouldn't do that, or that's a poor actor for it. But this recent season has been about like Red Hood and stuff like that. It's been pretty good. But since the shows are still going on, there's no reason to talk about it.
Let me just ask.
Sure.
This season with Red Hood, now is it like from the jump you know who Red Hood is, or there's like, oh, Red Hood shows up, it's like, who is this guy? Because I feel like within the past couple of years, there's just been so much Red Hood stuff that it just seems like it's almost overplayed at this point.
Well,
but
Jason,
I mean, maybe that's just me because I consume myself with Batman versus other people who might not really care that much.
Yeah, Jason Todd has been in since season 1.
Oh, okay.
He's an annoying little shit. You want to beat the shit out of him. He's very obnoxious.
With a baseball bat?
Crowbar.
A crowbar? Okay,
Yes.
fair enough.
So, in this first episode of season 3, he goes after the Joker by himself, and Joker kills him, and Batman goes and kills Joker, and comes back and tells Nightwing, like, I'm done with this, I can't be Batman anymore, I'm gonna take a vacation. But it turns out Jason Todd has been working with the Scarecrow and to try to do a reverse fear toxin, so it's like, instead of giving you all your fears, it takes away your fears. And so Scarecrow's manipulating Jason Todd, egged him to go after the Joker. Joker kills him, then he takes his body, puts him in the Lazarus pit, and he's just like, well, the formula I gave you for this still keeps me in control, it doesn't take away all your fear. And so now he's in the second episode, you do see Red Hood, but by the end of the episode, it's Jason Todd. So
okay.
I'm glad they didn't. I mean, if they wanted to change who Red Hood was, that's fine.
Sure.
But I did not want them to spend all season going like, who's the Red Hood? And then it's like, yeah, it's Jason Todd, the guy you killed in the first episode. We know that. But they've actually killed some of the main characters that have been around from season 1 and stuff. And like, you don't think it's going to happen, and then it happens. So there's some good stuff. I'm enjoying it.
I forget what network is Titans on?
Well, Titans was
streaming
on,
service or whatever?
It's on HBO now.
Yeah.
It was on the DC, their own streaming app.
They had a streaming app?
Yeah, it had Titans, it had Doom Patrol, it had the Harley Quinn cartoon show, it had Swamp Thing, and all you could like read their comics as well, and it had a lot of their media, but it didn't last. So since it's owned by WB and WB works with HBO, they swooped up all their content. Did you ever watch the Harley Quinn cartoon show?
I've seen some clips online. I hear it's actually pretty good.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, King Shark is so funny. The Riddler's funny. Everybody is so good. And sometimes it's like you have too many comedians in one show. It kind of pulls focus, but everyone is good. There's really no bad characters. It's great voice cast. Yeah, highly recommend it. Like, I don't like what's her face from Big Bang Theory, but she's an excellent Harley.
Kaylee Cuoco, I believe.
Isn't it Keely? Is it Kaylee?
I think it's Kaylee.
Maybe it's Kaylee. Yeah, terrible name. But Lake Bell as Poison Ivy is awesome. She's so good in that role. Yeah. Speaking of Lake Bell, she was in What If. She did a pretty good Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, that's who that was? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Which,
honestly,
great episode.
This is the best one so far. Like, I had problems with the first two. I mean, I saw, like, once they did the syringe didn't have a liquid, it had something come out of it. I was like, okay, it's an Ant-Man thing.
Yeah. I didn't know which Ant-Man.
Yeah. And then I definitely kind of figured out when you saw, like, Black Widow on the computer and you saw, like, a quick snippet of, like, Hope Van Dyne. Or a Van Dyne name came up. I was like, all right, well, that just definitely double confirmed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this episode compared to the first two.
But I really like this episode because it was very much like the comics of how does one change make a huge difference. And one thing that I was kind of disappointed in, I like when the Watcher's like, hey, this is the one change that happened, and lets you know from the beginning, this is how we're going to deviate. And you couldn't really do that in this one, because it's like, hey, what if the Wasp was the first person to be recruited into the Avengers? Then you know exactly who the killer is, or at least in some way. But let's not talk about it too much, because we will get to a What If episode in 6 weeks.
Okay. But yeah, if they make more episodes like this, I'd be happy.
Yeah.
So what else have you been watching? Because I know you've definitely watched more than I have.
Yeah, I always got to watch something every day. I saw Candyman.
Candyman, okay.
Nia DaCosta's Candyman.
I've never seen the original, and I might see this one down the line, but let me just ask you from the jump. Is this a sequel, or is this a reimagining? It's kind of its own thing.
It's now, I watched Candyman a lot, but I don't remember 2 and 3 all that well. So it's a bit more like the new Halloween remake, where it follows the first movie, but you could ignore the sequels. So yes, it's a sequel and a soft reboot.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's very good. I really like this movie. It is shot amazingly. All the instances of Candyman just being in a reflection when, he wasn't there before, or dragging a body through an art studio when he only pops up briefly on the reflection of mirrors. The cinematography is amazing and very effective. Like, every time something spooky was happening, this guy in my theater was just like, oh, damn. Every little thing is just, oh, damn. Which was very funny, kind of took me out of the moment.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, sometimes when you're in a movie theater, like, the last thing I want is to hear anybody. Like, I want to pretend like I'm the only person here.
Yes.
But at the same time, if you get, like, a quality reaction from someone, like, it's kind of like, I'm glad I came to this.
Yeah. All right, so Candyman, it's about Brianna Cartwright and her boyfriend, Anthony McCoy. She is an art curator. He is an artist. He's been kind of in a slump recently, and so he decides to kind of do a deep dive on the recently gentrified area he lives in. He came from the quote-unquote ghetto, so he feels tied to a story he is told by his girlfriend's brother about this woman who stole a baby and died in a fire, and it happened right here. And when he starts investigating it, he learns kind of the truth about things and why people don't talk about Candyman and all the history of who Candyman was, and he starts going a little mad. It's almost like Candyman is using him as a vessel, like where everybody else, they say Candyman 5 times and they're like dead instantly. After he does it, Candyman kind of almost like haunts him, makes him go mad, which comes into play later. Very bloody without being too gory, but very satisfying kills, especially because a lot of them are special effect heavy, because you need people to be lifted in the air or dragged by like an invisible person. Really effective storytelling through flashbacks of shadow puppets, and just aesthetically a really amazingly great looking film. Maybe it doesn't have the strongest ending, does kind of a little shift of who's really the bad guy sort of thing, but still good enough. And I highly recommend it. But if you are unfamiliar with Candyman and the lore, I definitely recommend watching at least the first Candyman.
Do they explain the... Like, you say Candyman 5 times in the mirror or whatever, you die.
Mm-hmm.
Or he comes out and kills you. Now, I feel like you tell that legend to everyone in Chicago, you're just going to have 100,000 people die in the same night kind of thing.
Sure.
Now, obviously, it's a movie, so that logic doesn't necessarily matter that much, but at least from the trailer, from what I understand, it's like it's a local legend, so like everyone knows, and it's kind of like the thing to like kids do.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've all been a kid and said Bloody Mary in the mirror and stuff,
sure.
and you know,
nobody died.
No one died, unless we're all living in a simulation. Is there any like explanation as to how come more people's bodies aren't? I just imagine there's just be either bodies. I mean, I guess it's like dangerous parts of Chicago. Maybe I don't. So no one's really tracking it. It just seems like with these gruesome murders, like there's got to be some sort of connection that people would be like, okay, like this is obviously real or something.
Well, in the first one, it's really localized to this neighborhood. And after the events, everybody said, like, you don't talk about this anymore. You keep it quiet. We got to let the legend die because we can't let this keep happening. So everybody just kind of forgets about it, or they just don't say it 5 times. They may talk about Candyman, but they don't say it into a mirror 5 times.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've heard that the first Candyman is actually really scary, or... maybe at least for its time it was really scary and, still holds up. In your opinion, what is it about this guy that is so scary? Because it just seems like, I mean, obviously Michael Myers is just a dude, but it's his, like, mask that makes him, like, terrifying, where this is just some dude in a trench coat with a hook for a hand. Mm-hmm. Like, in terms of scary villains, he doesn't particularly seem to be... Like, if he didn't have the hook on his hand, you could just see that guy walking down the street and think nothing of it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like the most terrifying villain to have in a movie.
Sure. Yeah, he is a little scarred. He has, like, bees in his chest and stuff, so it's not like he's a well-dressed looking man. He is kind of dirty and creepy looking. He's a good silhouette, and I don't know.
He has bees in his chest?
Yeah. Because
is there a reason for that?
Yeah. The first Candyman... The Tony Todd Candyman. He was like a painter, and during like 1891 or whatever, and so rich white people would hire him to paint their family, and then of course he falls in love with like the beautiful white daughter, and they fall in love, and they have a baby, and the dad's like, not gonna happen, so they pretty much lynch him, and he said like, get creative with it, and so they like cut off his hand and shove a hook in it, and then like open up his chest and like put honeycomb inside and let the bees like just sting him, and then they lit him on fire. They were just like, they went all out. They did a little of everything.
hot.
Yeah. But I don't know what makes it scary. I think maybe it's the filmmaking that makes it scary. Where a guy with a hook for a hand. We've seen a million different slashers with instruments of death, but I think it's the supernatural stuff, and that he will just appear. It's not just it's something you have to invite into your home, and hey, you gotta deal with the consequences since you were the one that did it.
I haven't seen either of them, so I don't want to judge them. But like based on the trailer looked very generic to me in terms of like, oh, here's another horror movie with some creepy, shadowy figure, and like we've seen the talking in the mirror thing. We've seen plenty of movies where the villain's called like Candyman or Bye Bye Man or Nowhere Man or whatever. There's Slender Man. The Empty Man. Yeah, there's just like...
Well, Candyman was before all those.
I understand that. It just seemed like it had all the trapping. I'm sure it's, according to you, a wonderful film and everything.
Mm-hmm. I think you would actually like it.
I probably would. I'm not trying to like just put it down. It just like from what I've seen, it looked like every cliche that a movie could have. And if it like it surprises me, I would go in with low expectations. So I think I'd be pleasantly surprised. I'm just saying from a purely trailer standpoint, it didn't do anything for me where it's like, I need to see that, where something like The Lighthouse, it just looks so fucking different. And I was like, all right, I gotta check that out. Or Hereditary, just hearing how terrifying that was. Yeah, I mean, that's just a haunted house movie, essentially. Like, we've seen that a bunch of times, but that movie fucked me up. So
what you're saying is you don't want to watch a movie with black people. There was a common thread there, and I get it. That's fine, but that's your thing.
You know, if he was like an ice cream man, I could get behind that. Like, just candy, though, I'm not a candy guy. That's my real issue. Like, if he's dealing out ice cream, then it's like, okay, I'd get murdered by that guy. But if he's just like, hey, you want some Skittles? Nah, I'm good.
So I highly recommend Candyman. See it if you can. D-Man. That was really stupid.
Jesus. So tell me how it ends.
Do you want to know?
I do.
Okay. So
we can delete this too if we want.
Sure. Yeah. So like, he gets like stung by a bee relatively early in his investigation. His hand's getting more and more fucked up, and he finds Coleman Domingo. He's in Euphoria, and he tells them all about the like history of it. So people die, and it gets to the end, and he's kind of losing his mind. Goes back to him. He's just kind of like, there always needs to be a Candyman because there hasn't been just one. There's been a bunch throughout the years. And he explains, like when he was a kid, there was just like an old man who had like his hand amputated, and he had like a prosthetic hook, and he would give candy to kids. They say in the trailer, and then the cops came and shot him.
Yeah.
And then, so...
I just thought that was the story of the original guy.
No, it was just, he was the latest Candyman. It's like whenever there's like injustice in black communities, like Candyman has kind of been born. And
so does Candyman throughout the entire movie just pretty much exclusively kill like white people?
No, just as long as you say his name. But that's just kind of like the driving force. And injustice happens in these black communities, and he is born. And if you say his name, he'll come and fuck you up. Gotcha. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but whatever. So Coleman Domingo, or playing William Burke, is just kind of like, there's got to be another Candyman, and our lead dude, Anthony McCoy, is just like, you're going to be our new Candyman. So he like cuts off his fucked up bee stung arm, jams another hook in there, but he gets killed. I can't remember how he gets killed. I'm assuming
shot by the police.
No, I think the girlfriend kills him. And then so you have your couple, and he's laying there like dying because he's mentally messed up and he's bleeding from his arm. And the cops come out and they shoot him and then arrest her. And she's in the back of their car. And she's like, well, you saw what happened. He had a hook for a hand and he was coming right at us. And she's just like, no, he wasn't. He was lying on the ground. Like, well, we could do this the easy way. We could do this the hard way. You could play ball with us. And she's just like, okay, fine, I'll say whatever you want. Can you just turn your rearview mirror towards me? And she says, Candyman 5 times. He shows up, fucks all these cops up, And then you do get to see Tony Todd, like he's like floating around and he has like bees all over his head and stuff, and they go away and it's like a DH Tony Todd, and it's just like, say my name. The end. And now he's the new Candyman.
So, last question.
Yep.
She says Candyman 5 times. He kills the cops, but doesn't kill her.
Doesn't kill her, yeah. So yeah, the lore doesn't. It's like if he's still like a conscious thing, you know, and doesn't just have to kill people and just chooses to. So he just chooses to not kill. Yeah. The rules when it comes to horror movies don't make as much sense as maybe say Freddy, but that's what we got.
Fair enough.
Cool. So what have you been consuming?
I've been consuming the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. That's
3 minutes of just mwah, that's all I need for the week.
Yep.
I also consumed it like 4 times.
What'd you think?
Thought it looked excellent.
Yeah.
I think it looks like a whole lot of fun, and it looks like we haven't seen much of anything, really. And it's enough to still get me hyped. Just doing crazy Doctor Strange, twisty trains and buildings and stuff is enough to make me go, this looks like fun.
Yeah, I imagine I could see the movie just having Doctor Strange for the first, 30 minutes, and then something happens where he's like, I gotta go fix the multiverse, you're on your own, kid, or whatever. But yeah, anything that Doctor Strange does, with the warping of the world, just looks so cool. I want to see more of that stuff. I kind of expected to see Doc Ock in the trailers just because they've been confirming that for a while. But I was surprised they just threw out the Goblin Pumpkin Bomb, and clearly you saw some sand flying around, so it looks like Sandman's in it.
Electricity. There is a dark shadowy thing that lunges out, and people are like, "Oh, that's Lizard." It's like, is it? It's just a dark shadow.
Yeah, I've seen people try to brighten it up and slow-mo it down and everything, and I guess that'd be my first guess. But yeah, everyone's talking about well, if this is a Sinister Six movie, who would be the sixth member? So assuming that's accurate, who do you think it is? Because so far, none of the villains, if it is Lizard, all the villains in it have been from previous Spider-Man movies. I feel like you would have to have one from... But, if Mysterio's dead, you just bring back Vulture. Vulture was the one who, in the comics, at least, I think, started the Sinister Six, right?
Yeah, I believe so. But I feel like you can't have a team of villains after Tom Holland's Spider-Man and not have one of his own villains. So it's gotta be Vulture. Yeah. That,
unless you just have a whole new villain for this one.
Sure.
Which I guess could be Scorpion, since I kind of hinted at him, but it just seemed like a weird thing to throw in.
Yeah, especially since he's not established and his power is just
wearing a suit.
Yeah. The only person that they haven't done that has been in the Sinister Six would be Kraven the Hunter, but I think Kraven's getting his own movie in the Sony Morbius Venom universe, so it probably wouldn't be him. Did you see who they're getting to play Kraven the Hunter?
I did, but I forgot.
Quicksilver from the MCU. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Why?
Oh, really?
Yeah, that guy sucks. I like him as Quicksilver, but he's not very good in a lot of stuff, and he's kind of like a young, skinny, weenie looking dude. It needs to be Gerard Butler. Gerard Butler would be fantastic, or he was in The Hobbit. He was the Arrow guy. Not Legolas, but the human.
Luke Evans.
Luke Evans.
Yeah.
Luke Evans would be a great Kraven the Hunter.
Okay.
But to get Aaron Taylor Johnson, I don't get that.
I understand that there's a lot of talented people and everything, and there's people... Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think, is a big dude, and I imagine he could get bigger. I know he said he's a teeny weeny dude, but that was kick-ass days. I think he's bulked up for other stuff. It just seems like there's a group of 60 actors that are just all in a huddle, and they're we can't branch out from this. We're gonna pull from this. So it's just kind of disappointing.
Shallow pool.
They should really branch out and either bring in a new star or Like, I mean, it's easier said than done finding like the next Chris Hemsworth because like pulled that guy out of obscurity and made him a superstar. But yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I mean, I have nothing against him like you do, but
I don't hate him with a passion. I just think he's very unimpressive.
Yeah, that is kind of an odd choice. But yeah, I think you and I have both talked about like we've been hoping to see Kraven the Hunter in some fashion in a Spider-Man movie, and that would be cool to see. But I don't expect him to be in this one.
Yeah.
Now, do you think from the trailer when he says hello, Peter, he's actually talking to Tom Holland or to Tobey Maguire?
He's talking to Tobey Maguire because he doesn't know who Tom Holland is.
But I mean, Tom Holland could like be in a Spider-Man outfit and fighting crime. And
that's true. He just assumes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he's like, you know, who are you? How do you know my name? Kind of thing. And it's like, you're Spider-Man. Of course you're Peter Parker and whatever. And then he like pulls off his like, wait, who the hell are you?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm Peter. And then maybe Doc Ock's the one who like helps Peter. Maybe he's not going to be a villain thing. Maybe it's like, you're the one who's going to help me get back to the multiverse.
Because we don't know, is this supposed
to be
the
Trinium or whatever?
Yeah, what was it? Was it Trinium?
Trinium or Tritium or something. But that was for like the power of the sun. I don't know if that means anything.
Chuck it in with the unobtainium and the transformium. And it's like, is this the one that drowned with the sun in Spider-Man 2? Or is this just another Doc Ock similar to that? Are we pulling into the past and saving him? Or are we just pulling one from the very many, many dimensions that exist, you know? Because it's like Electro's back with Jamie Foxx, but he's not going to be blue.
Yeah.
So is it like kind of Andrew Garfield's universe, but it happened a different way? Or is this maybe...
This is the live-action version of What If, I guess.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see, like, well, we're getting Sam Raimi's Electro. Because it's like, we didn't see it in those movies, so you can do whatever. And we're getting Andrew Garfield's Dr. Octopus, or whatever, you know? You start pulling the villains that they never got to use, so you're able to change cast or reuse cast and give them a different look. I think that'd be pretty interesting.
It's just...
I'm sorry, but I just don't want Andrew Garfield's Lizard. That lizard is so ugly looking. He needs to have the crocodile face, not the flat Goomba monster face.
And maybe that's why you've only seen the shadowy, like, claw or whatever come out. It's like, maybe they're giving you the lizard, but it's a totally different redesign. Because I think, like, that might look weird in the MCU, because I feel like just stylistically they look different.
Yeah.
If you watch those two movies side by side, I think the MCU is definitely more brighter and fun looking or more colorful, whereas the Andrew Garfield one's kind of a little bit more at night and grittier and stuff. I've talked to you about this before, about like how lucky we are to live in the time period we do.
Oh yeah.
Like, just in terms of everything that's on the internet and just not peaceful necessarily in America or whatever, but just everyone I think is like nicer and it's just a great time to exist. And then you have this movie that it's like, did you ever imagine you'd see 3 different versions of Spider-Man in a movie from like multiple companies converging to and like bringing in all these other people? Like, it's insane that this movie exists.
Absolutely.
And it's only by the grace of our Lord and Savior Kevin Feige, who's just like made so much money off these things that other companies just can't say no. And I'm sure Disney probably has like blackmail on everybody on the planet. I don't know what it is, but it's like anyone who complains about this movie, like, you can complain, I think, about, you know, filmmaking no matter what, because it's important to do, but at the same time, it's like, you realize that this thing exists, right? Like, it's so amazing to me that this all came together, and then it's like, yeah, we want this thing. It's when your kids are just like, oh man, we're never going to see this thing. Well, guess what? They made it happen for you, just because we've been like, let's see that. Let's see the wildest thing you can make, and like, yeah, we did it for you. It's like, it's incredible that this exists.
I remember being in junior high, being in like 8th grade, and just talking to my friends about like, man, if there was an X-Men movie, who would they cast? And even then, we were saying Patrick Stewart for Professor X. Like, it would have blown my mind to know that we were correct on that. And it's just like,
I heard they wanted Aaron Taylor Johnson.
He's younger than me. He'd have been in like 4th grade or something.
Yeah, but he was so talented back then.
Little kid Professor X. That's pretty funny. And we would just talk about, like, casting, and because, like, at that time, I'd be like, well, who's Jean Grey? Well, it's got to be Nicole Kidman, because she's, like, the only redhead in Hollywood at the time. And, oh, well, who's Cyclops? Oh, it's got to be Michael Biehn from Terminator. And it's just, like, all these things that would work for the time, but definitely wouldn't work, I mean, I guess some of them would have worked a few years later, because it was only, like, 4 years later that an actual X-Men movie came out. But if I could go back and talk to myself and be like, you know how many fucking Spider-Man movies you're gonna get, and how many different Captain America and Iron Man, it would blow my mind.
If I have one complaint, it's just like the whole Spider-Verse thing is cool, and I'm glad we're getting it. It's kind of a shame that just like 2 years ago, the animated one came out, and that movie I love. It's incredible, and it's just like, oh, well, we're doing it again, but now it's our version.
Yeah.
It's hard to complain when we've had so many versions of Spider-Man at this point. Like, doesn't really matter, because if the MCU ever dies, we're just going to get another Spider-Man.
Yeah,
who cares?
Yeah, for sure.
It's a license to print money. But that's just a little, like, nitpick, because, like, I love Into the Spider-Verse, so to see this one, I imagine it can't do it better, but it might do it different, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and I think
obviously it's doing it different.
The reason why it's going to work is it's going to be not just even stylistically different, story-wise, very much different. We're getting regular, normal Spider-Man from other dimensions, where we got Spider-Gwen and Spider-Ham. We got a lot of the crazy stuff, and this is more of pulling inspiration from comics, where this is pulling inspiration from pre-existing movies. And I think they're different enough that we're not going to get a lot of comparison to each other. So I think it works, and like, I'm glad we're not getting a Spider-Gwen or Miles Morales in this movie. That's something.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think? I mean, I don't think Spider-Gwen would show up, but do you think like they secretly have like a Miles Morales like lined up?
Yes, so. I think this will be the last standalone Spider-Man movie for a long time. I think we will get Spider-Man in other things. Maybe they'll just save him for Avengers. And then within 5-6 years, we will get a Miles Morales movie. Yeah. Maybe not a Spider-Gwen anything, but Miles Morales eventually. Because then Tom Holland will be aged up a little bit. Because they'll realize, like, he can only do this for so long. Time to get some fresh blood in.
I mean, there hasn't been any casting news about Miles Morales, and so I don't necessarily. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him, but here's my theory on how it ends, or how I would like to see it end, and you can pitch me something that'll probably be better than this, because I'm sure you've thought more about it, because I just came up with this just now.
All right.
Like, I think it'd be cool if, in this version, because he's fighting all these villains, and we have established the multiverse, where obviously Tom Holland can still live in 1,000 different versions. I like to see Tom Holland die fighting the villains, and then sort of like the tag at the end would be like hint at Miles Morales. Maybe you don't see the kid's face because they haven't cast him, but you just see like the something. A shot of the city, and then it's like, what's the opening line from the first Spider-Man movie or whatever, where
he's chasing after the bus?
Where he's like, I'm just an average kid or something like that. And never mind. But
the Tobey Maguire ones?
The Tobey Maguire ones, yeah.
It opens with him running after the bus.
I thought that there was like some intro line where, or maybe I'm just thinking about the very end, where it's like, who am I? I'm Spider-Man, like that kind of thing. You used to have that kind of dialogue, but then, you walk into frame and you can just tell it's like a black suit, and you just never, see who's in it. And it's like, oh, Spider-Man will return, or Miles Morales will return in Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. But
how do you spell that?
that's my soft pitch on how it ends. Okay. Spider-Man dies, and then Miles Morales tease.
Okay. I'm going to steal a bit from you and something I saw on Twitter, I think. Could have been Reddit. I don't know. But Spider-Man won't die, but maybe we think he dies. He has to do the thing to close the portals to get the bad guys back or whatever, and he actually gets sucked into one. And everyone's like, oh my god, where'd he go? We can't get him back. And then maybe you think he dies, but then you have a post-credit scene where he tumbles into an alley, and then he's in the Venom universe. So now you could actually...
the Tom Hardy and everything?
Yeah, the Tom Hardy Venom. So if you're doing these, different universes, and I can see Marvel and Sony having issues with like, well, you can't put Venom in the MCU because we already have our established one, then we aren't going to put a Spider-Man in ours because you have an established one. Well, maybe for one movie, he's able to tumble in this thing. For some reason, they fight, and he's able to get back at the end. And then when his reemergence in the MCU, it's like, oh my god, I've been gone for 5 years. Or, look at this crazy thing. I wasn't here to fight Kang, but now I'm back. Or whatever it is. And so then you could have your little Venom versus Spider-Man movie without recasting another one. Unless Sony does something crazy where they go, no, you can't use Miles Morales because we're going to use Miles Morales for Venom. And
God,
that's the Spider-Man that they use.
I mean, I didn't see the first Venom, and...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really bad.
I know, that's why. No one told me it's like, you need to watch it.
There are people who just jerk off about that movie. I don't get it. It's not good at any point. It's funny because it's so stupid.
Yeah. I watched the Let There Be Carnage trailer, and I think it looks better than the first trailer. But at the same time, I was like, once it was there, I was like, I just don't care.
Okay.
But...
well, if you're ever over and we have nothing to watch, I'm down with watching Venom.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not against it. I'm not going to actively seek it out. Real quick, did you see the latest trailer of Eternals?
Yeah. And it was funny. We were just talking about how like I wasn't very impressed with the original trailers, and then that one came out, and I was like, okay.
I like this trailer a lot more.
We see more powers and stuff, and we get like finally like a Marvel version of Superman. We get a flying laser eye man. So
with super strength.
With super strength and beautiful chiseled chin.
God, he's so good looking. I'm interested to see who, because I imagine at least one Eternal dies in this movie because there's so many of them.
Probably one of the kid ones. You know, the little kid.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess if you have kids who are immortal, they're not going to look young forever, so you're going to
kill them, and then, because isn't it...
I'm surprised Angelina Jolie would want to do, like, 4 of these. I mean, I don't know what she's up to nowadays.
And it doesn't seem like she's the lead, either. Like, she's just a side character, and it's like, maybe at some point it's just like, fuck it, I'm going to do this easy paycheck, and I don't have to carry the movie.
Yeah. Super excited for Eternals, because I don't know shit about it, really, and I think it looks more interesting than the other stuff, which we like. They're heroes, but it doesn't look hero-y, if you know what I'm saying. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, it looks more like if we were. I mean, I would hate to compare it to like Gods of Egypt or something, but when you're doing mythology more than superheroes, you know, superheroes has the call to action and the evil plot and the world domination or whatever it is, and they're a team that get call on radios in their ear and stuff like that, where this just feels like, well, we're doing a story about Zeus and Hermes and stuff like that. It's like, it's more mythological than superhero.
Yeah. So. And I'll definitely be interested to see how they play into the larger scale of the MCU. Because, like you said, if these are the god characters, essentially, like, they're their own even more powerful Avengers team, like, how are they going to fit into the team up stuff? It's like, you know, are the Avengers essentially old news at this point? Like, these guys, the new people, are going to come in and fuck shit up? Or are the deviants going to just wipe them out in this movie? I mean, probably not. But, we'll see.
Yeah. All right. You have anything else to say about trailers?
Trailers? I don't think so. But a show came back that I know you're a big fan of, and I don't like, but I want to hear about it. We can cut this out if you want to. I would like to hear what are your thoughts on the first episode of The Walking Dead.
Oh, yeah.
Now that came back.
And right as I was about to leave, I saw that my DVR was recording. I'm like, what the fuck's recording? I'm like, oh, yeah, Walking Dead. I got Walking Dead to watch when I get back. It was a perfectly fine episode. No real complaints. There's a lot of zombie stuff, a lot of cool, gross makeup things. The main issue is just kind of like Alexandra is like burnt to a crisp, but they're trying to rebuild because where else do you go? This is at least somewhat fortified, but our walls are down in some areas, and if walkers come, we're fucked. And it opened up with them going into like into a military facility, and they're like rappelling from the ceiling. Like the women go down on these ropes, and the men stay up to like lower them down, and they're stepping over all these like really dried up corpses. There's just like tons of people on the ground, and it's not like they were shot. It's almost like they all starved to death or were gassed or something. So they have to sneak around them, get into their storage facility, and find all these MREs. And it's like, cool, we got it. Take those all up. One of the ropes snaps, and Daryl like grabs it before it can fall, but he's like has a cut on his arm, and some blood drips down and like lands on the face of one of the zombies, and so he like slowly wakes up, and they're just like, oh shit, we gotta take care of him. They're trying to stab him, but they all start waking up, so they gotta climb up the ropes as quick as they can.
Now, it's always my understanding that the zombies never like rested. They were always active. Is this a new thing?
No, they've done it before. It's like you lock a zombie in a room. It's not like they necessarily will go lay down or whatever, but if they don't have that stimulus of like smelling or seeing or hearing something, they will just kind of go dormant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then, that's why when you walk into a house, you gotta, and then you coming from the room. Yeah, no, that it's a thing.
Okay.
So they go back and they're like, look at all these bags of MREs. We're so good. And like, yeah, this will last us a week. We had to take on, this community because they got fucked up, and, we're screwed. So Maggie is like, well, we got to get back to our old place because it got overrun, but we know there's a ton of food there. We had to bail, but there's lots that's left over. And so half of them are like, no, it's not worth it. It's a far trek. And so her and Daryl and a couple of other people are like, fine, we'll do it on our own. And they have to bring Negan because he knows the subways or something, and because they're going to take subway tunnels. And so they're going in there like there's tons of zombies like in white body bags that looks like they've just been dumped here over the years, but they're not quite sure. They're like, this could be an active grave for whoever's up there or whatever who's dumping them, or they could have been here forever. And so they have to like step through them, and they're like stabbing every single one. So it's taking time, and Negan's eventually goes like, you know what, fuck this. I don't want to be down here. It's way too dangerous. And the moment we get into some shit, Maggie's just going to put a bullet in my head, and you're all going to look the other way. And she's like, yeah, I want to kill you real bad. And, if I get an opportunity, I just might. But for now, I need you. So, you're safe for now. So they get to a point where there's a subway car that's blocking with like rubble around it, and of course Daryl's dog goes running off, so he tries to wiggle through the rocks, and they all have to climb up top because there's a whole horde of zombies coming after him.
Daryl has a dog?
Yeah, dog named Dog.
A dog named Dog?
Yeah, I mean, he's Daryl. He wouldn't give it a name, so he just calls it Dog.
Oh, cool.
He's had it for many, many seasons. When he was like, I gotta go live on my own, I can't be around people, and his whole dumb back.
I know Daryl's like the hot favorite of all the ladies who watch the show, and it's like, how do we make this guy even more hot? Give him a dog that he loves.
I don't know why people think he's hot. He looks like a catfish. But so they're all climbing up, and like Negan is second last, and Maggie is going, and she's slipping, and she has a grip, and she's like, Negan, help, pull me up. And he looks over, and then he leaves, and then she falls. End of episode. So in on the next episode of The Walking Dead, he does admit to it to the group. It's just like, I had to do what I had to do. She was going to kill me, and she's a liability, so I let her die. But it's going to be a thing. She drops, she fights her way, she crawls underneath something and safe. She's probably not dead because she's been gone for like a whole 2 seasons. She's only been back for like 3, maybe 2 episodes of the last season, and then this, they're not going to kill her. They're going to do that Glenn fake out thing where they weren't ripping up his guts, it was the guts of someone else, and he crawled under a dumpster. They're going to do something like that. But yeah, it was fine. I'm happy it's back, and I'm glad it's the last season.
It's in 3 parts, though, right?
Yeah, instead of separating it into 2, it's going to be 3. But I think it's 28 episodes, so normally their seasons are like 22, 24, so we're getting a little bit more. So if they have to split it up, that's fine. And since I'm someone who watches Fear of the Walking Dead, by the time they stop, Fear of the Walking Dead's starting up again. And when it's done, regular Walking Dead's coming back. So there's always, like, a little bit of wait time for Walking Dead stuff.
When do you think Rick is coming back? Because he has to.
Yeah,
they're not doing those movies. And
well, I heard that the movies are back on. It may not be as many movies. It may only be 1. But they said we will resolve the Rick stuff. And I think it's going to be in the 3rd Walking Dead show, World Beyond. Because the people who took him are in that show. Like that military group. It's partially about them. So I think he will be in that 2nd season, and they'll wrap up his story. It's sad that, I mean, maybe they'll wrap it up at the end. Maybe he'll come back in this season, because it'd be kind of sad to see the last of Rick Grimes in some other show.
Yeah, that seems weird.
But if that other show was about the military group who saved his life and stuff, it'd be weird for him not to be in that, because they're the military group. But that military group is also in Fear of the Walking Dead too, so whatever. It's all very connected.
And especially, seeing how the book ends versus, they've deviated quite a bit, obviously. But I could see him making it to the end of this show. I think he has to.
Daryl?
No. Rick?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, Carl was the one who you kind of rooted for to make it to the end in the books, and then he did. But like now, since Carl died, season 5? Or whatever it was, 6?
Season... This is 11, so I want to say it was 8 or 9.
Either way. Anyone... 8. I mean, unless you just go with, like... Is Judith, like, still badass or anything?
Yeah, I mean, she wears Carl's hat.
Rick's hat.
Technically. She didn't get it from Rick. She got it from Carl.
Yeah.
It's Carl's hat. And then, but she has the gun as well. And she's like a little Spitfire. And
I mean, do they utilize her a lot? Or is
not
she
really.
Just,
she has her moments to shine in some episodes. But it's been a while since we've seen her. Usually it's like her and her little brother that Rick had with Michonne. And
I didn't know they had a kid.
Yeah, they hook up and they have a kid. When in the peaceful times and stuff, they kind of just like, why not? Let's do it. And they throw themselves at each other. And then Maggie and Glenn's kid. Sometimes it's just kind of like, Judith, take the kids and go be safe or whatever. So she's kind of in charge of them. Yeah.
See, I think, once again, we're just getting off topic, but I think that would be a fun show or movie to watch, where it's like the adults have been killed, and so like here is this child who's like the leader of other children. And I don't necessarily want to see these kids like armor up and get all these weapons and actually like they're just like real cool band of survivors, but it's just like I want to see like one kid who can do that, just like trying to keep all these other kids alive in a zombie scenario. And it's like now they have to fight off adults or whatever, or like maybe some of their parents did survive, but they're, for whatever reason, the groups had to be separated. It's like, so they're looking for their parents. Maybe their parents have all got massacred at the end or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, maybe the kid, you go like a missed route. Like maybe the kid's like, I can't keep these kids alive. Like they're just been a liability. Maybe that the leader of the group has to like kill all the other kids. Yeah. I don't know. I think you could do a lot of really cool stuff with that.
Well, to answer that, I'm not sure if it was Walking Dead or Fear of the Walking Dead. I want to say it's just regular Walking Dead, but there were a bunch of kids who the parents went out to go do a thing. And they never came back. So they're like living in this like big tree house, and it's like they don't trust the adults. I think it was one of like Michonne's last episodes. But they were like teens, 14, 15, 16, around that. And then also in Walking Dead World Beyond, the main cast are like teenagers, high school kids who.
I want to see that.
Yeah, you want to see young kids.
I want to see
an 8-year-old having to deal with the zombie apocalypse.
I want to see like 5-year-olds to like 12-year-olds. I don't want to see teen angst in a zombie world,
especially when it's a 21-year-old playing a 16-year-old.
I mean, if you want to have like one 16-year-old be like the leader of those group or whatever, like I can kind of get behind that. Like have like a mother or father figure. But other than that, like I just want to see children actually like if they are capable of surviving.
Yeah, you have like a Peter Pan type character in The Lost Boys. Yeah. And everybody looks to Peter for everything. And then, episode 1 or 2, kill him off. And now it's like, oh shit, now it's up to Rufio, who's the next oldest. And it's like, I never thought I had to take care of these kids. We always had Peter to do it.
Rufio's so cool. Bangarang, bro. Anyway.
Anywho, yeah, so that's The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And if you want a weekly Walking Dead update, I usually do that to you anyways, but now that we have this channel, I could give everybody an update. I'll start taking notes.
I did watch something. I forgot. I watched Mare of Eastown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I thought you told me you watched that show, because I could have sworn you were just like, yeah, man, like me and Lauren watched it and it was really good. And it turns out I made that up in my head. But it's True Detective-esque, not as, grim, and doesn't have necessarily a character who's so weird you don't know what dimension Matthew McConaughey's from. But that's Matthew McConaughey. But Kate Winslet's like really good in it, and she definitely did her research on Pennsylvania accents and everything. It's almost distracting because she says things like warder and drags out the O's and stuff, and that kind of stuff. But real interesting small town crime, and I think I just connected with it more because it was clearly like a Delco sort of area and everything.
So I think I may have tuned in if I would have known that, because I just saw her and I just assumed it was going to be like a British show.
Nah, I mean, it's hard to really talk about without, sort of giving stuff away, but it's just, small town murder of a girl, and then later on it's like, I was connected to other things. Could this be a serial killer? And her dealing with a lot of family problems.
What's her thing? Is she an alcoholic? She have an estranged daughter that doesn't talk to her anymore?
Well, what's fun about this show is she's not an alcoholic, but pretty much every scene she's drinking. But every single character on the show seems to have a Yingling or Rolling Rock on hand at all times. Like, everyone is just perpetually drinking beer.
Is it character stuff or is it product placement?
Probably both. I think. Well, it's more so. Look how Pennsylvania these people are. See, they're drinking these local beers. I think that's what it is than character work. It's good stuff. It's more in line, I think, with True Detective Season 3, if, like, you want a vibe. I mean, True Detective Season 3 had, like, memory things and kind of time jumping, where this is, like, the investigation over the course of, like, a month or whatever.
And it's linear, though.
It's totally linear. I wouldn't say that there's no real, like, standout characters by any means, but if you like crime, mystery stories, it's a pretty good watch. And it's only 7 episodes. So I enjoyed that more than I anticipated.
Season 2? Or is it a standalone?
I haven't heard anything about this season 2. It easily could have a second season. But how it ends kind of... It's not a... I'd say it kind of closed the book on the show. It's definitely not left open-ended by any means.
But she could go for another case, right?
Yeah, she could definitely get another case. Okay. It's more about her journey from being in point A and then getting to point B, and like her as a character, her evolution by the end of the show. You're like, okay, like she's not the same person that she was at the beginning of the show.
Okay, well, we don't really have a main topic this week. We didn't have anything planned. But we both happened to watch a new Disney Plus release, Cruella. And we figured, fuck it, let's talk about Cruella.
Great. So, What's your thoughts on it?
You can't start. I set it up and then you started just to toss it back to me?
Yep.
Okay. Cruella is a perfectly fine movie. I wish it wasn't a Cruella prequel. If this was just a fashion designer feud with family ties and stuff, it would have been a perfectly fun movie. I think adding Cruella hurts it because they don't do the character right. I think Emma Stone is really good at playing both the like kind of nice Estella and the super bitch Cruella. Like, you can definitely tell there's a difference between the two. And I like Emma Thompson as the villain. I think she's like one of the better Disney villains in a long time. And I haven't seen it, but it just reminded me a lot of like Devil Wears Prada. You know, shitty boss, shits on your employees and stuff, takes advantage of them. So I felt like, okay, it's just Devil Wears Prada, but in the, 1960s?
60s, yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that's kind of fun. And it has a really good aesthetic. All of her fashion is really interesting looking. It's just, there's only two things people know about Cruella de Vil. It's like the white and black hair. Okay, they got that. And she wants to make a coat out of dogs. Her being an animal killer is the main focus of her character. And they completely abandon that. And she even has, like, dog friends, and she saves other dogs and gives them to people, and her crew has dogs. It makes no sense for this to be Cruella de Vil. And I have a little idea of how to fix that. Let's get your thoughts first.
I see your point about the dog stuff. Obviously, I think they change that to make her, like, if she goes around and just shot people in the face, they wouldn't care. But, like, when you start murdering dogs, people are like, well, there's no coming back from that. So I get, like, making that change. Not that they could change that in the future. She could do something along those lines. But I actually really like this movie. I think if, of all the, live action or reimaginings, I think this is the best one they've ever done, perhaps. Because I think, for the most part, if this wasn't really connected, it could be a standalone movie. Like, you don't need to watch the other Dalmatian movies to really get what's going on. I think it's definitely going to be up for some Oscars in terms of, like, costume design and stuff. Like, I think all the fashion was great. I think a lot of the set design was really good. I think all the performances were solid. I don't know why Mark Strong was in this movie at all. It seems like a waste of Mark Strong.
Absolutely.
But I thought the twist was he was going to be her dad, and that's why he was always, like, kind of on her side. And, like, he shaves his head because, like, if his hair grew out, his hair was going to be black and white. That's what my thought was going to be.
Interesting.
And but then that turned out not to be true. Yeah, anyway, we'll talk more about that later. But for a movie, I think it was... I really liked it. And I like that it didn't feel Disney-esque. I think the worst parts about it were, like, all the, like, CGI dog stuff. Like, the beginning felt very much like a Disney movie. I was like, I don't know if I care about this. Like, her as a kid and all that stuff. But, like, once she became an adult and it just became, like, sort of a revenge story and just, like, the origin of, like, a villain, I thought it was a really solid movie that definitely... I didn't feel like it was a waste by any means. Sure. Versus, like, other live-action movies, like, this doesn't need to exist. Like, this movie stands on its own, and I enjoyed watching it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I just don't think it is a Cruella story. Before I get into some other things, did the music bother you?
No, I actually liked all the music choices.
But it was like Suicide Squad. It was just song after song after song, and it's like, oh, we're doing a scene where she's dyeing her hair. We'll find a song that has hair in it, and we're gonna play that. Oh, she's driving a car. Find a song that has the word car in it, and it was just like a montage for like the first 45 minutes, and it's like, we don't have any script, but it's okay, we can just do visuals, so we need to have something, so let's just fill it with any song that has any sort of connection to what we see on the screen, and didn't feel natural to maybe the emotion of the scene, and it just every time another song hit, it just kind of like took me out of it, and it lightens up a bit towards the end. But those first 45 minutes, it is just nonstop, just like hitting shuffle on your iPod.
I mean, the songs didn't bother me. I liked all the songs that they chose. I thought they set the scene fine, even if they were maybe a little too on the nose. But I didn't think that they were so distracting or anything like that. My only major complaint with the movie, besides some of the silliness with the dogs, because that's the only thing that I felt really tied it to the Dalmatian movies, was like, we have to have these dog heist characters or like the murderous Dalmatians, is I think the movie was a little long. Like it definitely felt like a 2.5 hour. I definitely stopped and like, how much time is left?
Not that I was 2.5 hours long.
It's 2:16.
Really?
Jesus. Yeah, I definitely stopped a couple times. But how much time is left? Not that I was ever bored. It's just like it definitely felt long. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the music. I was surprised because like I thought when you told me, because the only thing I heard about this movie was like the reason Cruella doesn't like Dalmatians because like they murdered her mom. I thought you told me that they like ripped her apart.
No,
and, like, I thought that was because I thought, oh, this was going to be like this really grim, dark thing where like the dog's just like murder, but it's like they just push her off a cliff.
Yes,
but that part at the beginning bothered me. It was like, why would they stop chasing the little girl and just seemingly like knock over this lady for no reason? I didn't get that, and then they cleared that up. Later in the movie, I was like, okay, I'm glad they explained that. Like, anytime I was like, what the hell is like this? They always had a reason for it, which I'm glad they didn't like gloss over anything. Like, they definitely hit all the points they needed to.
If I didn't know going in that did you know much of the story going in? Like, that the Baroness was her mom?
No, I didn't think that was the twist. I thought, like, I didn't see the twists coming. Like, I assumed there was some... I thought maybe it was going to be like her grandmother or something, but I didn't see that. I didn't expect that the Baroness murdered the mom until like it was getting closer to that reveal. I was like, I think I can see what's going on here. Like, the pieces are forming, but I didn't... Yeah, I was surprised by a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I knew most of this movie going in, but I think they handled all those sort of surprises very well. It's a well-crafted movie, even if it's got some goofy stuff to it, like, her allowing herself to get pushed off the cliff and then uses a parachute.
Oh, I hated that. That's one of the Disney parts. Like, all this ridiculous CGI stuff, and the parachute dress. I was like, all right, come on, man. Like, when she was by the cliff, I was like, okay, this was her plan from the get-go. I thought they were just going to be like a net to catch her or something. I didn't expect her to fall off this thing and have a parachute at the ready, and just like, Jesus Christ, because it just all looks silly, especially when she landed, and it was a really weird shot to do.
Yeah, the compositing was weird.
Yeah, I think it was a very cool way to do that character, and they, even if they don't like murder the dogs, I like that they sort of like referenced it and go like, oh, did she or did she not kill the dogs? And because she did have a Dalmatian outfit at one point.
And I would have been perfectly fine if we never saw the dogs again, and she never confirms it. She just gives a little smirky thing. That's enough to go, look at the limits that she will go for fashion and her revenge. But it's like, no, I'm just being a turd, and I want her to think that I killed her dogs. But it's like, that's Cruella's character. She was willing to kill 101 puppies for a coat. Why wouldn't she kill 3 Dalmatians that killed her mom to get back at the Baroness? They could have absolutely done that without, seeing an animal getting skinned alive or anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's also good about this movie is that it's not a kid's movie at all. Like, no, I don't think a kid would enjoy this movie at all because of its length, and because like the characters are all like not all the characters, but like Cruella is kind of evil, and the Baroness is a murderer. Like, these are like real world stakes, and people are willing to do bad things to each other, and that's what I really like kind of liked about it. Like, it's an adult movie based on kids' source material, And once you get past some of the ridiculous dog stuff, it is like there's a solid movie here.
Yeah. I could see like 11 and 12-year-old girls who are like finding their rebellious stage, really latching onto this. Like a lot.
Yeah,
of
there should definitely be like a Cruella Hot Topic line. If there's not already.
Yeah, wait for Halloween to come. I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of that. This because it's been said that this is like the girl version of Joker.
Oh, for sure.
So what 30-year-old neckbeard incels, how they gravitated to Joker, 11, 12-year-old girls will gravitate towards this for sure. What was your favorite dress?
Good question. I wish I had a list.
Yeah.
I'll say that the dress that the Baroness was like in love with, the moth dress.
Yeah.
I was like, I feel like there's been cooler like designs that have come out, but her to be like, this is like my masterpiece. I was like, I mean, it's a nice looking dress. I don't see what makes it like so special.
But I like the twist that it was like just a bunch of moth eggs.
Yeah.
So that when it gets locked up, it ruins her whole collection.
Yeah, when I saw them
very clever.
See, I thought they were all going to be like sparkler or not some sort of like fireworks that would like I thought they were going to explode and all the dresses were going to catch fire, but I like that they were moths. I thought that was clever. When it's one thing if there was just one or two like really iconic ones, but they were all so different and there was a ton of costume changes. I mean, the red one looked nice. The Dalmatian one was fine. I don't think it was... I feel like if there was going to be like one that really popped, it should have been the Dalmatian one because like, oh, this is when she becomes full Cruella. But I don't think it was as impressive as some other ones. Do you have one that really
the garbage dress that like
was like
30 feet long, flowing?
Yes,
very cool.
Well,
now, was it the same one when she gets on the car and she drapes over it, or were those two different?
No, those are two.
Okay.
Honestly, I think that's probably the best one that I like is the that one where she stands above the car and it drapes over. I like the colors and I liked how big and frilly it was. But I remember when she did the garbage one, I turned to my fiance and I was just like, that was a cool exit. Because not only did she like roll out and like come up, and I just thought like all those were like separate, but when she gets off and they all dragged as like as a what do you call that?
Train?
A train, yeah. I was like, damn, that was cool.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as a functioning dress, it makes no sense.
No.
But it's like a great, like, here's a fuck you, but then I also turned your trash and made it into this real fucking cool thing. I would say that's the coolest one, but the best looking dress was the long one that she draped over the car.
Yeah. Wasn't there like a punk rocky one? Was that the one that was draped
I feel like
over
they're
the
all
car?
punk rocky.
I mean, like an actual leather jacket. Because I know she like rolls up on a motorcycle. Doesn't she have like a leather jacket with a bunch of gewgaws on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably do a deep dive on just the dresses and have our professional opinions on fashion really shine through.
Yeah, look at us in our t-shirts.
Yeah, but so far, in terms of the movies I've seen, if I'm picking a winner for best costume design, it's going to be this movie.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of any other ones that really blew me away. Maybe Green Knight, but Green Knight I don't think was really standout-ish.
Yeah, certain period pieces, like I hate it when period pieces win because it's just like, oh, look how accurate. It's like, to me, that's not impressive. To be able to look at pre-existing things and recreate it, who cares? Making something really unique and original and something you haven't seen before, that's impressive shit. So whenever, Pride and Prejudice or Little Women or whatever wins like best costuming, like that's so fucking boring.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. Like, I could also see this movie winning best makeup and wig, whatever, because I think they're all kind of hair and makeup. Yes, thank you. But it's always interesting to see something like this win over. But then you also have like a Star Wars come out, and there's like a million different characters wearing a totally different alien masks that have never been seen before. It's like Cruella wins. Like, wait, what? Like, yes, the hair and makeup's great, but they made other races of things.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, so I would say this is a B plus for me. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I also gave it a B. I figured it's because of the length and some of the few things at the end and I didn't love. It doesn't get a B plus, so I think solid B for me.
Real quick, we didn't talk about it. What do you think of Horace and Jasper?
Good. I thought they were really. I really like Paul W. Hauser.
Yeah,
and I know he's in Cobra Kai, or maybe he
hasn't shown up yet.
Season 2 or something. But he's great in everything I've seen. He's really good in Black Klansman, just as a scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
He's terrific as Richard Jewell. I mean, I like that movie. It seems like a lot of people don't like that movie, but I enjoyed it. He's in I, Tonya. He's so good in I, Tonya.
Yeah, I like him.
Was he nominated for Best Supporting Actor for that? Because if not, that's a shame.
I don't think he might have been nominated for Richard Jewell, but other than that, I don't think he's ever been nominated for anything.
Yeah. I mean, even as the Juggalo in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, he's just killing it. I hear him in Cobra Kai. That's like his worst role. He's like really obnoxious.
Oh, okay.
So keep an eye on that. But yeah, I really love that guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else he does in his career. The other dude, I was like, I know who this is. Who is this guy?
Game of Thrones guy.
And then it's just like, oh yeah, he married Daenerys and then got burned up, right?
Nah, he was stabbed.
Oh, okay. By the Sons of the Harpy?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the 3 or 4 episodes he was in or whatever. But yeah, I like their dynamic, and I was surprised when she like just kind of really started shit on him when she got Cruella. I was like, I really don't see why these guys would stick around. And I like that they were like, no, fuck this chick. We're not doing this anymore. Like, we're doing our best to help you achieve your revenge, but you don't need to talk to us like that. And I like that, by the end, she's like, no, these guys are my family, and like, they've become part of the crew. And like, I liked all that stuff. And back to Paul Hauser, his line of when the little dog with the patch shows up and
Wink.
Shows up at the prison and like gives him, he's like, I'm gonna kiss you on the mouth. Like,
I don't care where it's been. I guess that was an improv line too.
Okay. Yeah, I liked his dynamic because I think the little dog with the patch, one, I didn't think was as cute as maybe they were trying to make it.
Oh no, he was cute. He was damn cute.
It's a fine looking dog. That shtick of like the big guy with the tiniest dog and their like scheming ways, I thought could have gotten real old or ridiculous, but I don't know. It all worked for me, and I liked his little dynamic with that dog.
And the dog wearing the little rat costume and stuff.
Just yeah, that bit was funny. Yeah, that was a clever little bit. Like, oh my god, that rat's as big as a dog. It's like, yeah. And even when the person's looking on the camera and he's just like spraying it with like a water hose essentially, and the dog like plays dead, like, oh, and he even picked it up by the tail. It's like, I don't know how well they trained this dog, but it all worked.
I think probably 80% was CG.
Oh, for sure, but I don't
like
know,
there's a part when young Estella is like running away when she first meets them. She's running away with the like dog under her arm, and is like such a bad looking CG dog because it's just like unnaturally bouncing around. It's funny looking, but I'd say the rest of the special effects are good for the 2 little dogs. I think the Dalmatians kind of looked weird.
Yeah, I definitely think that the little dogs kind of blended in more, where like because maybe it's just because the Dalmatians stood out so much because of like their color and stuff, and they're so big that they're hard to miss. That the CG definitely looked the worst for them. But I wouldn't say that it was bad. It's just definitely the most noticeable.
And speaking of dogs, so at the end of this movie, she has the 3 Dalmatians. One of them is pregnant. 2 of those puppies go to other characters that have shown up who are the main characters of, well, not the main characters, but the owners of the dogs from 101 Dalmatians. Yeah. It's before they get together, obviously. One, those characters did not need to be in it. They did not need to tack those on to try to tie it in. It's enough that they have Jasper and Horace. They're in the other movie. That's totally fine. But to add them in, it's just fan service. And they've established that now Pongo and Perdita, the 2 dogs that have 15 of the 101 Dalmatians, are brother and sister. Because the Dalmatian was pregnant and she gave 2 puppies from it, they are related. And it's like that happens all the time with animals, but that's kind of weird that they put that in this movie. why they need to do that. Why does Cruella have to be the person that gives them their dogs, that eventually she will come back and say, I want your puppies? I mean, I guess it's like, I gave you your dogs, I have ownership or whatever, but it just seems weird if she's trying to do this nice gesture to these people and then in 10 years will come back and be like, I'm going to murder the puppies.
I don't know if they're doing a sequel to this. Yeah, it definitely has potential for a sequel. And I think, the tag at the end was kind of like, oh, look, that's nice. Because I think it kind of basically, Marley told me that that's how the beginning of 101 Dalmatians begins, with like him singing Cruella de Vil, like in that sort of like window shot. Because I haven't seen that movie since, I don't know, what, 6, 7. I really don't remember anything about it.
I had to, like, when I was done with Cruella, I put it on Disney Plus and scrubbed through it because it was just like, wait a minute, do these 2 dogs actually give birth to 101 Dalmatians? That can't be right? And it's like, no, they had a litter of 15. She's gathering puppies from pet stores and everybody else, and then she's accumulated 101 Dalmatians. And I was like, oh. In my mind, it was always just like, damn, this dog spat out 101
That's
puppies?
what I thought, too.
And that's not the case. And, like, Horace and... Not Pete. Horace and Jasper. They're not really friends with Cruella. Which, of course, this is a few years later. Things, they can break up or whatever. But they just seem more like small-time crooks that she just hires. She doesn't really know them. Yeah, I had to scrub through it because I was like, I remember... barking chain, and I remember there's a little fat one that's always hungry, but it was, I'm like you, I did not remember a lot of original 101 Dalmatians.
I think if you took out the tag at the end and that would have, you just made it just about Cruella and stuff, it could have, the end doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I think all in all, if you're going to do an origin story or a reimagining of a character, this is kind of the way to do it. Like, I would be more okay seeing new takes on Disney characters in this way versus, let's make a copy for copy Lion King, but have it look photorealistic.
Well, I agree. This is a good take. I think they just should have taken all the dog stuff out. It's like she spent 10 years growing up with these 2 crooks with a dog of her own, and one of the other guys has a dog, and then eventually, maybe 10, 20 years later, she's going to be okay with killing animals. So, I have a little bit of a change that I would do when she is homeless, and I think this is where you're getting the mother killed by dogs, because I think I pitched some of this before, but have her be in hard times with her mom, always looking into the store windows and dreaming of what she can, what she wants and can't have. And they are literally homeless. And she hates dogs because they're always like stealing her food, or they're like pissing all over her little, cardboard hut or her little mattress or whatever. And you could have it like some bad dogs came in the neighborhood and they were gonna like
it's that gang of greasy dogs.
And so the mom like sacrifices herself to like get out of here, and the dogs rip mom apart and kill her, and then
she could have had that shot of like in Lion King where Scar is getting ripped up by hyenas. You just see the mom like get jumped on by dogs, and you just hear the like.
You see the silhouette or whatever. Absolutely,
you can make it dark but not terrifying.
Yeah. And so maybe she doesn't have an affinity for any animals. Like the rats would bite her or like sleep on her face while she's trying to nap, and then after she meets Horace and Jasper, she could have like just complete contempt for the little dog, even or don't have it at all. And then boom, there you go right there. She's never had an affinity for dogs, and then you allow her to kill those Dalmatians to make the outfit.
Well, because in the original they had an animal. They were like animal control men, right? Or they were just henchmen?
I think they're just henchmen.
Okay.
And they would pretend to be like electricians to sneak in and steal the puppies.
Because in this, they pretend to be pest control guys. Like, you could have had them be animal control guys.
Sure.
And it's like, that's why she hired them, because they also deal with, like, killing animals. So, like, they have no problem doing the thing that she wants to do anyway.
So, absolutely. And it's just like a small change that would, like, make her hate animals and give her the total justification of wanting to do that later. Like, maybe she did have a dog that would sleep with her on cold nights and stuff, and it kept her warm, so she was able to, like, see how soft and, you know, wonderful to touch these dogs' fur were, and, you know, when she's making clothes and, like, I've never felt anything as nice as this one dog or whatever. Ugh, how great would it be if I could have an entire cloak of this animal fur or whatever. Or she's gung-ho on catching pigeons and plucking their feathers to put into her hat, or stomping rats and making a dress out of it or whatever. Like, make her dislike animals so much. I think it would work a little better. I mean, maybe it's harder for the audience to, like, cheer for her, but she is a villain. You don't need to make, this is like her name is like Cruel Devil. You know, you don't try to sympathize with her. She's one of the most evil villains that doesn't have much to her. Like Ursula from Little Mermaid, there is a sadder past that they did kind of cut out of her being like exiled from the kingdom. Other villains you can sympathize with. Cruella de Vil is the one that you're not supposed to sympathize with at all. She's a puppy killer. They should have stuck with that. Or you drop the Cruella stuff and you just make a fun period piece, fashion, feud movie.
I mean, I think you could still make her a sympathetic character because the Baroness killed her mom, and so this is her revenge story. So you could still, like, root for her and still have her, like, kill dogs, I guess. I mean, but,
yeah, she doesn't have to actively kill the dogs, but, like, every time Wink would come by, she would, like, stamp her foot and he would go running, and Horace was like, hey, don't touch Wink that way, that's my little guy. And just like, well, keep your little rat dog away from me.
But like I said, like, this movie's not for children.
Yes.
So, like, if you're not making it for kids, you can make her evil and still sympathetic or whatever, or somewhat sympathetic. Absolutely. She's not Thanos or whatever. But last thing, I was doing what I always do after I watch a movie and going on the IMDb Trivia.
Yep.
And I feel like I might have known this before, but I haven't really thought about it. An iconic look of Cruella's her with that very long cigarette holder, and it said that Disney hasn't had a character smoke since 2007, like they banned smoking in their movies. And I was just wondering, do you miss villains smoking?
It does add something, for sure.
It really does.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I necessarily need it, or it doesn't necessarily need to be there to advance the movie or story or anything, but there's something about, like, character smoking. One, it does look cool.
Yeah.
And two, it does make your villain look a little bit more villainous.
Or you have the sexy femme fatale come into the detective agency and she's smoking a cigarette. She's instantly hotter. So, yeah, kind of miss it. All right, you have anything else for Cruella?
No, I think we basically covered it.
Yeah.
I would recommend it, but also not.
Wow. That was amazing. I would say if you have Disney Plus, sure, go ahead and watch it. If you are going to pay money, maybe not.
Yeah, I wouldn't drop $12 at the theater to see it.
No.
But
$1 Redbox, you know? Maybe.
Yeah. I wasn't upset that I watched it.
Absolutely. It was not a waste of my time.
Nope.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us in the Whirlpool. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we're at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com and at WRPL Podcast on Twitter. Let us know what you're consuming. Until next time, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.